This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a single software platform that enables your trainers to deliver consistent, high-quality workouts, track client progress, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to poor client experiences, inaccurate tracking, and prevents you from growing your business, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal understand your challenge and have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. You can integrate with MindBody, manage a standardized exercise and workout library for your team, track workouts effectively, and produce client reports at the click of a button. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. Starting with Strength Portal is super simple. Number 1, sign up for the best package for your business. Number 2, let Strength Portal take the load off and help onboard your business onto the platform. And number 3, start delivering consistent workout experiences and scale your business to the next level. To help support the podcast, please go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business and sign up now so you can stop feeling frustrated about your business and start to scale your business to its true potential. Go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business. Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, the podcast where we discuss high intensity strength training and provide you with the tools, the tactics, and the strategies to help you grow your strength training business. If you want to get free resources to help you grow your business, including sales presentations, PDFs on how to get more clients and attract great trainers, financial forecasting and cash flow templates, and many more transcripts and resources over at highintensitybusiness.com/free. So that's highintensitybusiness.com/free. Today is episode 389 and part 14 of the High Intensity Strength Training Fundamental Series with Tim Ryan. And in this podcast today, we're going to focus on how to manage exercise-induced headache, which is something that many of us and many of our clients have experienced during a workout. We're going to talk about what that is, how you can address it in the moment, how you can alleviate it, things like that, and what you should do. And if we have time, and there's always that, but if we have time, we'll certainly get in some audience Q&A as well. If you don't get to that on this episode, we'll certainly get to it in the next. Obviously, today's guest is Tim Ryan. As I've mentioned, Tim is a master super slow instructor and owner of Strong Life Personal Training in Barrington, Illinois. You can contact him to learn all about his services to studio owners and personal trainers, including workshops, mentoring, and seminars by going to his website, stronglifetraining.com, or emailing Tim to info@stronglifetraining.com. Tim, welcome back to the podcast. Great to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. Great to see you.
So, what is exercise-induced headache? Let's start there, shall we?
Well, I wish I knew what it was. I know one thing that it is it's a very big irritation and frustration when people get it during their workout, because it's something that startles people and is kind of unsettling at times, depending on how severe it is. And it's frustrating as a instructor or trainer to deal with this. So first off, as the name implies, exercise-induced headache, it's a headache that is sort of induced or occurs during your exercise. Now, I believe that, we have sort of named it exercise-induced headache, but the medical community sort of refers to it as an exertional headache, because it can occur. It doesn't just occur during exercise. It tends to occur during exertion. It is something that has been known to occur. And as I say, the medical community has recognized that people have, sought medical advice on why this is happening and so forth. And even in my experience, some of my clients that have gotten exercise-induced headache, they have shared with me that they also get it, at home when they do other things. I've had people tell me that they lifted a heavy box out of the trunk of their car and, got the headache. And I had one person tell me one time that they were in their garden pulling weeds. And as they were kind of exerting and pulling tough weeds to get out of the ground, they got the headache. So it does occur outside of exercise, but it does seem to be associated with exertion. And the concept during exercise, when it does happen, as I say, it can be very frustrating and startling to people. Sort of the hallmark of this is it comes on relatively suddenly, that a client will be exercising and going along doing their thing, and all of a sudden they'll get this sudden pain, typically in the back of their head. Sort of rises up the back of the neck and the back of the head. And sometimes it feels like a little tingling or something going on in the back of your head. And then if you ignore that and continue the exercise, it will sort of come over the top of your head and maybe get into your forehead, and you'll feel it up there as well. So my experience is that most of the time when this happens, the client will ignore it. They'll realize that it's starting to occur, but they'll ignore it. They won't alert me to it. And typically what happens is they'll get done with an exercise and they'll sit there and, start to rub the back of their head or something, or they'll sit there with their head down and, I'll notice that something's wrong, and I'll say, did you just get a headache? And they'll say, yeah, I've got this pain in the back of my head. I don't know what happened, this, that. Or another real common thing is, let's say they've, come off the leg press, and then typically we'll move into an upper body exercise after that, and they'll be on the upper body exercise, and they'll start to complain of a headache. And then when I question them, I'll say, did you just get it just now? Or they'll go, no, I got it back on that leg press, but now it's really become bad, and, I think I got to stop or something. So at any rate, this is a frustrating thing, and it startles people because sometimes people think, they're having a stroke or an aneurysm or something like that, so it can be disconcerting. So let's talk a little bit about what this is. And I can tell you that I've never seen any kind of an explanation in any kind of medical literature or by talking to a doctor. Nobody seems to definitively know what this is or what causes it. I know Dr. Doug McGuff has spent some time discussing it in some of his materials and in his book. I don't know if it was in Body by Science, but
it's in the Q&A book. Yeah, it's in the Body by Science Q&A. I was just we can talk about that, but I didn't read it too long ago. But this just shows how bad my information retention is. I can't even remember what his opinion on it is in any great detail. So please go on. I'll try and find it if it can help our conversation.
I think, Doug, at least from my recollection and reading that, he didn't necessarily have a definitive answer for what it was, but he suggested that it could possibly be associated with the fact that, there's a lot of blood vessels in our brain and over the top of our brain, and there's very limited space between the brain and the skull. And, perhaps when you're exercising and increases in blood pressure and so forth, that could kind of expand those blood vessels and put pressure on them as they press up against the skull. And, I seem to recall that it was something maybe
that sounds accurate,
that related. But I can tell you that what it seems to be associated with when people have gotten this, at least initially, all right, it does seem like they're doing stuff like holding their breath, performing the Valsalva maneuver, starting to get, kind of tense, maybe grimacing and gripping on some of the exercises. Sometimes it's associated where, all this is going on and they're pushing their head back against the pad of a machine and, tensing those neck muscles and doing things like that. And it definitely seems to be initially sort of stimulated or caused by doing some of these incorrect behaviors, the breath holding, the grimacing, the tension, and putting stress on, the head and neck and gripping excessively with the arms and things like that. Okay. It almost always seems like that. Like I've never seen somebody just, having a relatively calm experience and suddenly getting it, at least not initially. So it'll occur typically, let's say you're starting a new client and you may go through the first several weeks of their program where everything is fine and you're generally just gradually progressing the resistance and the workouts are gradually becoming more challenging and things are going along just fine. And then, at some point you start to get into these workouts that are more challenging and they're working harder and they're having to work harder, and then they start to do some of these behaviors where they start to hold their breath and strain and do these things, and then suddenly they'll trigger one of these headaches. And once this headache has happened the first time, that one of the interesting phenomenon is that it tends to come back on subsequent workouts very, very easily. Right. Okay, so the first initial time it seems to take a little more strenuous activity and, as I said, some of these behaviors. But once they've gotten it, they come back for their next workout or something. It seems to come back very easily. And what I mean by this is that I've seen somebody, once they've had that initial experience, they come back for a subsequent workout and they do the slightest little thing and it comes right back. They'll get in their first exercise and they're not even working hard. They're not even straining. They're just going along and, doing
why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I've had people describe to me, like, again, this initial time that they get the headache, I've had them describe a feeling that they felt like something kind of popped, in their head. And I mean, that's the way they describe it, where it seems like, there's just something that occurs where, bam, this thing, comes on and it feels like something popped, maybe not in a literal sense, like a blood vessel popped, but, they get this kind of feeling where there's that initial pop and bam, this thing happens. So I don't know if whatever's going on with this, if there is something like that, where that initial experience causes some sort of breakthrough in something that stimulates it, and now it comes back very easy after that. But that's where it can be very frustrating because, that initially you think, well, the reason they got this headache is they were, holding their breath, performing the Valsalva maneuver. They were straining their head and neck muscles and gripping and grimacing and doing these things. And that's what caused the headache. And if they just stop doing those things, then it won't happen again. But it just seems that once they've caused it in the first place, or once it's occurred in the first place, it tends to come back relatively easily. So I don't know what it is. I don't know why it happens. I've never seen, any definitive answer of why it happens, but it can be very debilitating because particularly if a client keeps getting it on subsequent workouts, they become very, upset and dissatisfied with the program. And sometimes if you can't deal with this and get it to stop happening, who's going to keep up with your exercise program if every time they work out, they get this headache,
This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a software platform that enables you to track workouts, deliver consistent high-quality client experiences, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to inconsistent workout experiences and stifles your business growth, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. To help support the podcast, go to strengthportal.com/high-intensity business and sign up for your ideal package now. That's strengthportal.com/high-intensity business. And now back to the episode.
So let's before we get into the practical, like how you address it, which I'm fascinated by. I've just found it. Sorry for those listening or watching. Tim has been very patient whilst I've been listening to him and also trying to root through this book to find Doug's view on this. And I'll just very quickly, high level, just explain how Doug explains it here. So from what I remember, and I'll read through this, Doug seems quite, his language is quite definitive. But I could be wrong. Here we go. So exercise-induced headache is a side effect that can occur as a result of a desirable effect that appropriate strength training can produce, namely the milking of venous blood out of the veins back to the heart as a result of intensely contracting muscles, massaging the veins in the working extremities. However, sometimes this venous return can exceed the compliance capability of the heart, and one can produce enhanced venous blood pressure toward the cerebral circulation, which is exactly what you said. That stretches the cerebral dural sinuses in the brain. And that's what triggers an EIH, exercise-induced headache. It's important to know that whilst extremely unpleasant, it's nonetheless harmless. It's not an aneurysm like the client might think. And it's a condition that seems to particularly strike those who are badly deconditioned. So that's something we can talk about more than those who are least modestly fit. I'm just really, because this is quite a big paragraph, so I'm keeping it really brief. He says, since a lot of what damps venous blood flow to the brain is the tonus of the upper body musculature, it is a condition that tends to occur when one's upper body musculature has become atrophied. And then he explains how Valsalva maneuver, holding the breath, can exacerbate it or cause it. So it's a good reason to obviously coach good breathing. Just want to make sure I don't miss anything really key. Yeah, you mentioned about the leg press. He said about how doing large movements. So the sequence of which of the way one performs their exercise is important. So if the larger muscles, like the leg press, produce a lot of, cephalic? Is it cephalic venous blood flow performed towards the end of the workout, right? So he suggests those people that are prone to this do the big movements towards the end. And he also talks about performing neck and upper body musculature movements first to help just take on some of that blood flow, right? And actually help to reduce the pressure in the head, which I thought was quite fascinating because I have a client who gets this. So I immediately made these changes. So anyway, I won't continue reading it because that's not the point of this podcast. I just wanted to give people a view of what Doug was saying there. So with that said, are you saying that you're skeptical that is what it is? You just think that's perhaps Doug's opinion, or
No, I'm not skeptical that that's what it is. Obviously he's giving a very good logical explanation based on his medical knowledge of what's perhaps going on there and describing what could be causing it. And I think that's probably as good as an explanation as anybody else has. But it's still just, I guess, somewhat speculative, although based on a lot of good information. So I'm not doubting that that's what it is, and that could very well be what it is. And it does kind of concur with what I said, that, the first several weeks of the program, when people aren't necessarily working that hard and they're gradually ramping up, and then they start to get in those initial hard workouts where they're being challenged more. And then this can sometimes occur. And obviously when they're being challenged more and being stressed, and they're not yet that fit and they're not yet that conditioned, so that would concur with what Doug is saying there. So that's a good explanation. And, what's odd though, is that it's a relatively rare thing. It doesn't happen to a lot of people. It's not like everybody who's deconditioned gets this problem at some point. But it also doesn't really explain why after you've gotten it the first time, it comes back extremely easily.
Well, that's the weird thing, because I would have thought that if you're producing those positive adaptations, you're getting stronger, you're producing more muscle mass, your compliance of the heart, or however it is Doug says it, would improve, your adaptation of the heart and the cardiovascular system. I would think then logically you would see less. The client would experience it less.
Yeah.
And maybe perhaps that is the long-term.
Yeah, I think that's the difference there. The long term, yes, they're going to experience it less and have it less likely happen as it become both better physically conditioned and more experienced with the program. But I'm talking about initially. So let's say one day this headache occurs, and then they come back the next workout. It'll come back very easily the next workout if you're not extremely careful, and it could happen several workouts in a row. And this thing runs the gamut. I've had people get the headache once and it never happens again. It just they get the headache once and then it, whatever. I've had people get it for 6 or 8 workouts in a row, and it's kind of frustrating to deal with, and then it eventually goes away. And it probably in one or two cases, I've had somebody get it virtually every workout for weeks on end, to some degree, and to the point where the person eventually dropped out of the program because no matter what we did, they just kept getting this headache, and it became so frustrating that they just stopped. But I would say there's probably only been one person that I wasn't able to rehabilitate this and get it to stop from happening. Okay. So I would say in most cases, it's a temporary phenomenon. It does subside. It does stop happening once that, whether it's just physical conditioning improves and it stops happening, or the steps that I'm about to describe of how to sort of rehabilitate this and how to prevent it from happening. The good news is that in almost every case, you can get this to stop happening, but you do have to take it seriously. I agree with Doug. It doesn't appear to be any kind of dangerous thing. You're not having an aneurysm. You're not about to stroke out or something like that. Whatever it is, it does seem to be just like a harmless, but frustrating phenomenon. Mm-hmm. But in almost every case, you can get this to stop happening and get past it and, return to normal workouts where this doesn't occur. Okay. So let's kind of talk about the steps of how you would deal with this when it happens. Okay. The first step and the best thing is you want to try to prevent this from happening in the first place. Okay. So it should be something that at least something is said to the client during the initial stages of the program to alert them to the possibility that this could happen. And I try to be very careful with this because I don't want to alarm people. I don't want to sort of plant this seed in their mind that, this is going to happen. And then almost psychosomatically, they get the headache because they're thinking that it's going to happen. But I will typically, say something to them and just say, I usually start it this way. I'll say, if you ever arrive at a workout and you have a headache, let me know, okay? Because sometimes if you come in with a headache, you may begin your exercise and maybe it could get worse. Headache could get worse when you're exercising. So I would want to know that just so we can be aware of it and maybe take some precautions and be careful with that, okay? But also, exercise may make your headache go away, depending on what the headache. Maybe you were tense at work and you're kind of stressed out a little bit. And a lot of times the exercise can make your headache go away. It can relieve that stress. It can relax some of the muscles in your neck and shoulders and things, and it may make it go away. So, that's the good news. But let me know if you come in with a headache. But the other thing to keep in mind is that sometimes you may not have a headache when you come in, but you may start to get a headache during the workout. So I need to know that as well. And if you're get one of these headaches that starts to come on during the workout, I need to know immediately, all right? Because these exercise headaches are not something that will go away by continuing to exercise. So you may think that you start to feel something going on in your head, you start to feel a headache brewing, and you may think that you can just ignore it and work through it. But these exercise type headaches are typically not something you can work through, that if you ignore it, and you keep trying to push through and persevere with your workout, it will often get worse as the workout progresses. So if you feel one of these headaches during the workout, please let me know right away, because I can do things with you to help relieve the headache. That oftentimes if you get this exercise headache, we can make it go away, but you need to let me know, okay? So I'll have a conversation typical with that, but I try to be careful not to get too involved with it to the point where, as I say, I'm going to kind of make the client feel like, oh my gosh, this sounds scary. I'm going to get this headache, and I don't want to freak them out, basically. But I do want to say enough about it to let them know that they need to alert me if this happens. Okay.
Do you not find that because it being quite a rare thing and quite a disturbing thing for a client, they usually say it. They usually say, "I've got a bit of a headache," or
actually, if it gets really severe, they will. But I would say most people, even though I've had this conversation with them, they don't tell me initially. Okay. I have to recognize it. Like I say, they'll perform the leg press. It'll seem to be uneventful. They get done with the leg press, and I, pull the seat out and back them out, and I go on and set up the next exercise, and I turn around and they're still sitting in the leg press with their head down, rubbing their head, or their head in their hands or something. And I'm like, here we go. They got a headache.
And you invariably find it post leg press. Is that a lot
of times post leg press, sometimes the leg extension, but sometimes they won't even, they'll get out of the leg press or the leg extension. They'll go into the next exercise. Maybe they'll be on the torso arm machine. And then they'll be doing the torso arm machine, and halfway through they tell me they got to stop because they have a headache. And then when I question them, they'll tell me they actually got the headache on the leg press, but they thought they could work through it. Okay. And then, the torso arm or something brings it on, makes it worse, and they get to the point where they have to stop. So like I say, what's frustrating is, even though we may have had this conversation and I've asked them to alert me if they get it, for whatever reason, they don't alert me and they keep trying to work through it, So at any rate, so let's start from, the point that this headache has occurred. What do you do? How do you handle this? Okay. So the first step would be, once we've acknowledged that they have this headache, I would have them just, pause the workout, let them sit quietly in a machine and try to let this thing settle down. Because usually it'll, if you stop the exercise and you just sit there quietly, it'll start to subside a little bit. It'll start to just kind of relax and won't be as severe. And a lot of times they'll say, it's much better now. I kind of still feel it in the back of my head, but it's much better. Okay. Kind of a thing. So the first step would be to try to pause and let it subside, see if it'll settle down, see if it'll get to a pretty low level. Okay. And then you could try to go on to the next exercise. But what you do is you sort of redefine what failure is on an exercise. So instead of working to the point of muscular failure, you would terminate the exercise as soon as the headache returns. All right. So if they start that next exercise and the headache starts to intensify as they're performing that next exercise, you immediately stop the exercise. All right. You don't try to work through it. You don't try to push to muscular failure or whatever. If the headache returns, you immediately stop, set the weight down, and again, pause and let that headache sort of subside a little bit. Okay. Now, if this has happened, if they got it initially, you let it sort of subside, you tried to go on to the next exercise, it came right back again, you stopped the exercise. At this point, what I would do is I would take them over to the neck machine and I would perform a set of neck extension. All right. The next exercises, as you alluded to, Doug, mentioning in the book there, the neck exercise is very good at alleviating the headache. So many, many times you perform a set of neck extension and it will make the headache subside. Whether that's just, getting the blood flow going through the neck musculature, the exercise sort of relieving some of that tension, breaking a muscle spasm in those neck muscles, what have you. It does seem to be fairly successful at alleviating the headache. Okay. So you take them over, you do a set of those neck extensions. And again, if it alleviates the headache, if they say they're feeling pretty good, you could take them and resume the workout and see what happens. But if the headache returns, you immediately stop the exercise. So essentially, this idea of redefining failure means that the exercise ends at the point where the headache returns. It's not something that you continue to try to push through and ignore and try to get through your exercise. Okay, you have to stop because this type of headache, it's exacerbated by the exercise. So if you keep trying to exercise and push through it, you just keep making it come on and making it occur. Okay, so you have to terminate the exercise whenever it comes back. So generally, you try to deal with the neck exercise. You could also do some things. I found success with doing the old Nautilus rowing torso or rowing back, not necessarily the compound pulling row, but the vertical rowing torso where you're sitting and you're kind of rowing back with the pads against your elbows. That tends to help alleviate it a lot of the times because, again, it's working kind of those muscles in the upper back, the trapezius, particularly combining that with the neck extension, those two exercises, whatever it's doing, it's tending to kind of break up that reaction and let the headache kind of subside. So
what about like a overhead press where you're working, obviously your deltoid and your upper chest, could that also help?
Yeah, I mean, it does work some of those muscles, but I think usually something like that and doing that pressing movement, it tends to be a little much for them and will probably trigger it. Okay. So generally, what I'm describing right here is sort of that initial experience. So once they've got that headache for the first time, you're going through these steps of pausing, letting it subside, attempting the next exercise. If it comes on again, pause, terminate the exercise, let it subside. Perhaps take them over, do the neck exercise, do the rowing torso if you happen to have that exercise. Try to get it to alleviate and see if you could continue the workout if it's not returning or if it's not ramping up to a severe level. Okay. So if you are able to kind of get through the workout by making these modifications, see how it goes. But as I say, redefine failure and terminate at the first sign that the headache is returning. Okay. Now, if it just gets to the point during that initial workout where every time you try to do something, the headache comes right back, then you may have to terminate the workout at that point for the day. Okay. But what I always try to do is I don't want them to walk out of the facility with a pounding headache. All right. So I'll do whatever I can to relieve it before they leave. So that may mean going back and doing another set of neck extensions if that's what it takes to let them walk out of here feeling better. Okay. So I'll do something like that to get the headache to relieve, so at least they walk out of here not feeling too bad, sort of thing. Okay. So now, after that headache has occurred, now you have to really be careful when they return for their next workout. You have to be really careful and hopefully try to get through a workout without bringing this headache on. All right. And as I said, now you're in a situation where this could very likely occur relatively easily the next time. And like I said, I've seen something where it doesn't take the leg press anymore. It doesn't take some big heavy movement anymore. Almost anything they do could bring it back. Okay. So you want to be very careful. So the first step is to remind them. Well, the first step would be to check in with them and see how they're feeling, see how their headache was, see how long it lasted before it went away. Ask them if they have any type of a headache right now. Are they feeling anything? Get that assessment right up front. But in terms of the workout, again, you have to remind them that the exercise ends the moment you feel the headache coming back. Okay. So when we start this workout, you're doing your exercises. If you even kind of feel anything going on, you let me know. Because remember, this is not something you can work through. You need to stop at the slightest sign, because the best thing to do is that if you can catch it early, maybe it's just a tingling in the back of your head. If you catch it at that point and stop, that's going to be much better than bringing on this full-blown headache. Okay. So let me know if you're feeling anything. Okay. But now what would be best to do is, like, again, what Doug mentions, is start with the smaller exercises first, and don't do those big exercises like leg press or leg extension until the end of the workout. Okay. So what I would do at this point is start the workout with neck extension. All right. Sort of be proactive and try to relax and de-stress those neck muscles, right at the beginning. All right. So you do a set of neck extensions. Then maybe you go to the rowing torso. Again, if you have it, not everybody has one of these, but then maybe you go to the rowing torso.
What about, would it be overboard to do, lateral neck flexion? Just really try and stimulate as much kind of neck, upper body musculature and that way?
Yeah, I would be okay with doing the lateral neck flexion as well. Maybe do a couple of those neck exercises and really try to sort of de-stress the area and bring some blood flow and relax things. So that would be fine. Depending on what exercises you have at your disposal. Now, if you don't, good point, if you don't have a neck machine, then I would do manually applied neck resistance to substitute for a neck machine. All right, but you do the neck exercise and then try to basically reverse the order of the workout. Instead of working the large things at the beginning, work the small things at the beginning, building towards those larger exercises. You could perhaps do lateral shoulder raise after the neck machine. You could
manual shoulder raise, like manual resistance shoulder raise.
Well, like lateral, like the lateral raise machine where the pads are against your elbows, right. You're raising your elbows out to the side. But you could also do manual lateral raises. Yeah. So then, just kind of proceed to things that are going to be least likely to be super stressful and trigger this. So kind of working down the line, maybe you do, you could then go to the rowing, the compound row machine, and then work your way towards those larger muscles, the chest press or the pull down, things of that nature. And, it's a bit of a trial and error to see what they can tolerate and how things go. But the idea is to start with the next exercises and start to work from the smaller muscles up to the bigger muscles, and doing something like the leg exercises at the end of the workout. Okay. So if you're able to go through this procedure and work through these exercises in that order, and you're being successful, and they're not getting the headache, then that's what you're after, and that's what you're trying to accomplish. the other issue, along with doing the exercises in this reverse order, is to now get an extreme focus on them keeping their head still, maintaining that neutral head and neck position, relaxing uninvolved body parts, relaxing their face, really focusing on their breathing, trying to stay very calm and not do any bad behaviors. Don't be grimacing and clenching your teeth and jaw. Don't be holding your breath.
Gripping too hard as well.
Right? Yeah. Get away from gripping too hard. Don't be moving your head around or pushing your head against the back of the pad or anything like that, or the back of your head against the pad. And just try to be as calm and stoic and focused as possible, and focus on the breathing and staying relaxed, not getting too stressed out from the work you're doing. Okay. So the way this usually works is it could be a multitude of different things. You may institute these procedures and the person may not get the headache. Okay. You may be able to get the whole workout done and they never get the headache, which would be great. They may get the headache a little bit. They may start to feel it a little bit, but they'll say, oh, it's not too bad. I feel it a little bit, but it's really not bothering me too much, and you'll be able to, mostly get through the workout. Or you could have a case where, boom, it comes right back and, it's a problem again. Okay. But whatever it is, you kind of work through it only in the sense that you try to get through the workout without triggering, a severe full-blown headache. So you make these modifications, you try to catch it early. If it does come on, you again stop the exercise, let them pause, let it kind of settle down, see if it subsides. And then, sometimes you have to just experiment and try different things and see which exercises they can do where it doesn't present a problem or bring it back on too strongly. Okay. So as I said, I've had situations where, they get it once and then it's kind of just very low level for a couple of workouts, but with instituting these procedures, we can kind of manage it. And after a few workouts, it kind of goes away. Sometimes it can be more persistent and it can be a little bit more severe and, more difficult to deal with. And other times you get a bad case of it and it seems like anything you do, the slightest little thing you do, boom, this headache is back. So, but most of the time you can kind of work through this, and instituting these steps, you can really manage it well. You can get it to stop happening. And what I would say is that you want to go through these procedures of the reverse order and redefining failure and so forth, and try to get through maybe a half a dozen workouts where they totally don't get the headache at all before you start returning to a more normal workout. All right. So you want to have a real good pattern of them sort of consistently not getting the headache anymore before you return to a more normal workout. But throughout all of this, you still really emphasize this idea of remaining calm, breathing properly, keeping your head and neck still, not grimacing, gritting, all of these types of things, because those will exacerbate it. All right. So one of the good things that comes out of this is it can be an opportunity to really enforce these good behaviors and really get them to focus and concentrate and sort of behave themselves, because, they don't want the headache either. So it can kind of help really reinforce the importance of some of these proper behaviors that we're stressing.
I love that silver lining. Yeah, it's like the worst thing that can happen, right, is that you don't address this and the client, due to their ego or due to your own instruction, just keeps training and the headache gets worse and worse and worse. And they associate that with even though it's harmless, they're associating that really negative experience with your workout. And that's only going to lead to one thing eventually. Like you said there, this is an opportunity to further differentiate yourself, explain the importance of good form and how that can help alleviate or prevent exercise-induced headache. And a lot of us kind of focus on the tailored or personalization of our programming. And this is and by putting neck first and putting like big lower body movements last and really tailoring the program to the individual with the headache, it's just another opportunity to differentiate ourselves through programming and through corrective feedback and being really, really focused on form. I think that's a really good outcome of all of this. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention that might help the listeners, because the post for this will kind of become a resource for people for exercise-induced headache materials. And obviously we've spoken about Body by Science Q&A book, which is this one right here, which is an amazing book. The way it's written, it's all the stuff that Doug and John couldn't put in the original Body by Science, and it's wrote in a Q&A format, which makes it really easy to find what you're looking for. Because it's like questions about like, what is soreness and why do we get it and how do we prevent it and things like that. And obviously EIH. There's also, I think, something Doug did with Ken not too long ago, Ken Hutchins. I don't think it's Heartstrong. It's actually something focused on exercise-induced headaches. So I'll find that and I'll link to that if it still exists from the blog post. So it's episode 389 over at highintensitybusiness.com. I also have somewhere a manual resistance PDF, which shows you how to do different MR techniques. And there is neck in there for neck extension, neck flexion. So I'll try and find that as well, and it'll all be in that post, so that listeners can find those resources. One question I had for you, Tim, is, with all this in mind, does it not just make sense, especially when we're doing the free workout or just onboarding someone, to just program neck first and program legs last? What do you think?
I mean, that's a possibility. It was certainly with the neck. I believe very strongly in doing the neck exercise, and I try to put almost everybody on the neck, and I do put that first in the workout. When somebody's doing the neck machine, it's first. Okay. There's various reasons for that. One would be to, be proactive and sort of cut this off before it happens and make sure that we are doing something. Because I think not only doing the neck exercise in the sense that it may be relieving some tension and stress and making the headache less likely, but I think having a stronger, more well-conditioned neck is also a preventative for this headache. Okay. So both the immediate effect of doing the neck exercise and the long-term, adaptations and strengthening of the neck, I think this is important for obviously a lot of reasons, but particularly towards this headache issue. So I tend to involve that neck exercise in most people's workouts, and we do it first. Okay. As far as always doing the legs last or something, I don't tend to do that. I guess I'm old school and, have done sort of the largest muscle groups in the legs and stuff first, and then proceed down to the smaller muscles last. But, I can't say that it would be, deleterious to your results if you did the legs last. So I would probably tend to reserve that reverse workout only if a subject is having a problem and is really prone to the headache. But as long as the workouts are going well and they're not having a headache, I would tend to keep the legs up front at the beginning of the workout. But that's a judgment call, and I don't have any big strong issue against it either way. But I do like the idea of having the neck exercise as a regular part of their program and doing it first. And I did want to just quickly make a comment, because you brought up, some of the positive aspects of this, and what this also does for us, particularly if you handle this whole situation professionally, if you handle it confidently, and if you institute these procedures and alleviate the headache, you can really build a lot of respect with the client in your abilities. Okay, this goes a long way for recognizing that you're an experienced, educated trainer that knows how to deal with these things. You successfully managed this well. You didn't get freaked out over it. You were confident in your abilities, and you conveyed that confidence, and you handled this with the client well, and you were successful in alleviating it. That really builds a lot of respect that you are a good trainer and good educated professional person. And let's face it, most other trainers in other gyms wouldn't have a clue how to deal with this type of situation. So this is an opportunity to really instill confidence in your clients that you know what you're doing. So
it just occurred to me, I have no idea what the wider fitness community says about, not, I mean, you mentioned the medical community, but the wider fitness community, what they say about exercise-induced headache. I've never actually looked it up. Yeah.
No, I mean, my guess is that they're completely clueless. that they wouldn't even hardly realize that this occurs, and if it does occur, they wouldn't know how to deal with it at all. So this is a good opportunity for us, even though it's frustrating when it happens.
And another thing Doug says in the book, which is quite interesting, is I'm wondering if this is your experience, Tim, is that it's more likely to happen with females, since if they haven't been working out, the upper body musculature has atrophied more so, since women tend to carry less muscle mass on their upper body than men do. And obviously more around their lower body musculature seems to be more retained more easily, and therefore they have less upper body musculature to help with that blood flow. So do you report that, or?
Well, yep. I mean, just as I don't have any statistics, I've never analyzed it, but the
men probably complain more, don't they? Us men complain more. Women are better. They don't complain as much. They're tougher.
I mean, I would say, I don't know. I have men and women both get it. I mean, maybe my general sense is there's a little more preponderance of it in women than men. But, the last person that I had get it, surprisingly, I've got this guy who's just naturally very muscular, very thick, muscular, sort of big bones, big, well-developed muscles, even though he hasn't been working out prior to coming to me, but just
we hate people like that, don't we? We all just hate them. Yeah.
Right. Genetically blessed. He's just very heavily muscled and big boned and stuff.
And probably doesn't care for it either.
Right. Right. I mean, it's just kind of natural. And he's a little bit overweight too. And I keep thinking, man, if this dude got in really good shape and lost the weight, he was look incredible, So, wow. But anyway, somebody like that got it. So now with him, luckily he got it once, and then we instituted some of these steps, and he never got it again. So that was very good and did become an issue. But he did get a little freaked. Yeah. Like what in the heck just happened with that? Man, this is weird. I've never had that happen before, So anyway.
This has been an amazing podcast. I think you've given some really good tactical know-how on how to handle this, and lots of different protocols that people can implement in their own process and their systems with their trainers. One of the things you say, which I think we should all be doing, is at the start of the workout, every time someone comes in, you should always ask the question or something similar to, how are you feeling? How's your body feeling? To try and understand where they're at, and if they do have any sort of headache symptoms that you can then address there and then and adjust programming for and that kind of thing. What about, have you ever had a situation, I think you mentioned actually at the start of this podcast, where you've tried everything and just nothing works and the person always gets it and they've just ended up, leaving eventually? Have you experienced that? And is that something that, maybe that occasionally happens and there's just nothing we can really do about improving it?
Yeah, there was, I think by my recollection, only one person that no matter what I did, it wouldn't stop happening, that this person just was an ongoing thing. And there'd be times where maybe we'd get through a workout where it didn't happen. But I had this one female client where, she got the headache pretty bad, and we instituted all these steps and did everything I just described and really tried to be careful and really tried to manage it. And it just kept happening. Okay. And she was one too, where, she would get the headache and it would last. It wouldn't go away for a week. She'd have a headache and it just wouldn't go away. And it'd be pretty severely. Like she'd say, I've had this thing for a week. I've been nauseous. It won't go away. I've tried everything, and
could that be related to things outside your control though? Like, is she firstly being completely honest is her headache being caused by something completely separate? Is it not an EIH? Is she eating enough? These sorts of things. It does, especially when it's one anecdote. I wouldn't be too concerned about it, really. It seems so rare as well. Yeah.
And my recollection is that this person, I think she was, number one, prone to migraine headaches in the first place. Like she has a history of that. And, for a while, I think, she was having some sort of different hormonal issues going on and other medical issues with her. Because we were trying to come up with some sort of an explanation. And, I know she was going through something else, and she had a history of headaches and migraines and things like that. So I think the severity of hers and this idea of it not going away for a week, that was more of kind of specific to her situation and her medical history. But it was something that, the reason it was so frustrating is that because she wouldn't just get it and then it would subside and she'd, be fine after the workout. She would get it and have it for several days or have it for a week, and it would kind of like never go away. Or she'd have it for 3 or 4 days, and just as the headache goes away, it's time for her next workout. And then boom, the next workout brings it on again. And it would be kind of this constant thing for her. So eventually she just dropped out of the program because, she just couldn't deal with this. So, but that's the only time I recall ever having that situation. Virtually every other situation, it's manageable. It eventually stops happening. You institute all these steps and you can get it to stop happening and return to the normal workouts and, and be good. And also we should say this is a relatively rare occurrence.
Yeah.
It's not like every person or every other person you're dealing with this kind of thing. I went through a period where I don't think I had a case of this for 6 or 8 months with anybody, and then, I got somebody, but I think it seems to be much less frequent that I see now. I can go a pretty long period of time without anybody having it, or somebody gets it, like this gentleman I mentioned earlier where he got it, but he just had it one time and then it never came back. And
so random.
I had a woman too that I think she got it once and then she kind of had it very mildly the next workout. And then by the third workout, it was gone. And now she hasn't had it subside, happen again. So whether it's being less frequent these days with my clients, or whether it's these steps that we've been taking, like we mentioned earlier, doing the neck exercise and including that in their program, and getting that neck strengthened and relaxed before the workout proceeds, and doing those kind of things, and being very focused on getting people to, do the correct behaviors and the breathing and the staying relaxed. And, if I see somebody starting to get worked up on something like the leg press and starting to get a little panicky or something, I'll just kind of talk them down from that, get them to relax and get them to refocus and just be careful with this.
Yeah, we have obviously much smaller sample size than you, Tim, over the years, and we only have one client who has this, and he fits the bill really accurately in terms of atrophied upper body musculature, which maybe obviously we've changed the programming, just like you said. Although there's some stuff you said which I will definitely implement as well, to obviously try and alleviate this. And last time he worked out, he didn't have it, which is great. So
yeah.
I'm just going to summarize some of what you said as we draw to the end here. And I think we'll save the Q&A till next episode. I think it'd be nice to tie a bow on this and just summarize it. You let me know if I miss anything out. So if we're doing this in order, you're basically taking a moment at some point during the initial consultation or free workout, whatever it is you do, to educate client on the possibility of an exercise-induced headache, whilst making sure you don't scare them off, basically, or,
right, yeah.
or cause them to have some kind of event where they manufacture it.
Yeah.
And then you're checking in at the start of every session. How's your body feeling? Something along those lines, to find out, if they do have any headache present, or anything like that. And then when it happens, the first thing you do is just pause. It's just allow the client to pause an existing equipment, just to let it kind of die down. And at that point, then you start basically including different protocols. The first one being redefining failure. So as soon as that headache comes on again in the next movement, then you're going to stop the exercise. So that's when the new failure occurs. And then you're looking at really changing the programming. So you're going straight to neck extension, and then maybe rowing torso, you said, didn't you? Is that correct?
Yes.
Working exercises that work, the neck extensors, trapezius, upper back musculature, mainly first. Moving big movements like leg press, leg extensions to the end of the workout to really try and alleviate and minimize the likelihood of the exercise-induced headache coming back. And then all the while really being far more focused on, we should always obviously be focused on this, but making even more of a point of focusing on form correction, technique, still neutral head and neck, stoic face, relaxing the face, not unnecessarily elevating blood pressure with hard, a strong grip on exercises where that's not necessary, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Have I missed anything? Is that pretty much the approach? Is there anything else there as well?
Yeah, I think you summarized that very well. One thing I should probably add to it is the fact that you want to keep very accurate records on your workout chart, or however you're recording your workouts. Keep accurate records of where exactly this occurs. What I'll do is, let's say it happens on leg press. All right. I'll put a note, in the box right on the leg press section, and I'll write EIH.
Beautiful.
And circle it. So I know that they got a headache on the leg press. And if if we go on to the next exercise and it comes back and it ramps up again, I'll write EIH on the next exercise, so I know that they had the headache on those two exercises. Okay. So you want to keep very accurate records. And of course you want to keep records of which exercises you're performing and which order you're performing them in, so that you can really kind of analyze this and see, where is this occurring? Okay. What are they doing when this occurs? What exercises tend to bring this on? Which exercises are you able to get through where it doesn't, trigger it, or that they're feeling fine on those exercises? Because depending on how this goes, you may need to, eliminate certain exercises that tend to trigger it. Okay. And, you want to find the ones that you can get through without causing it. Okay. Because for a couple of reasons, you don't want the client to keep getting the headache, because you don't want them to get frustrated with the workout and possibly drop out. But you also have to find a way to get them successfully through workouts without causing the headache. And, you want to be able to just build this track record of getting through workouts without triggering the headache. So you need to know which exercises are causing it, when and where it's occurring in the workout, what sort of things you've been successful with, and you may have to sort of whittle things down. And maybe you can't do the leg press for a while. Maybe you can't do the leg extension for a while. Whatever exercises are really problematic, maybe you eliminate those from the program, and just do the exercises that you can get through. And as I said, if you can successfully get through a number of workouts, 4, 5, 6 workouts in a row where you don't have the headache, you're really on the road to eliminating this problem. So the more accurately you keep records and know exactly what's going on, the better. Okay. And even write notes. When you talk to the person before the workout starts and you say, how's the headache been? What happened after you left here after that last workout? And they say something like, well, I had it for a couple of hours and then it pretty much went away and I felt fine since then. Or maybe they're going to say, I had that thing for 3 days before it went away, So you're recording that in perhaps the notes section, so you know exactly what's happening, and you can take all this information and manage it and use it to your advantage to eliminate this problem.
Yeah, that was such a great point. So important to make sure that that's added to the workout card and the notes, exactly how you described. whether that's for yourself and for your team, right? Even more important, if you've got multiple trainers that are training different people, that trainer needs to understand, what does that mean? What's the legend for that workout card? What does EIH mean, right? These are things that you don't want to just keep in your head. I don't want people. This addresses the wider topic of systems. I don't want people listening to this podcast and go, okay, I know that now. And then maybe just having one meeting with the team and then telling them it and then hoping that everyone just remembers. Like, you have to really try and systematize this. And one way of doing that is having a process or like a system where it's clear how you use workout cards in your business. Like, what do different acronyms mean, like EIH? Which is so important for the next trainer who takes our client. They need to understand, where did that happen? What can they do to make sure that the chance for happening again is far less likely? Let
me add one point there. So obviously, if you're the one that's always training this particular client and you have this information on the chart, you obviously know exactly what happened and you're familiar with the situation and everything's there. But like you mentioned, what about if you're in a facility where some other trainer is going to be working with this client? Okay. Not only do you need the information on the chart, but you should go to that other trainer and let them know that this happened with that client. Okay. Depending on how your schedule works. If you know who's going to be working with them next time, I would have a conversation with that other trainer and let them know, give them, advance warning that this occurred. Or maybe you put an extra note, even if it's just a Post-it note on their chart, and you write down that, hey, this person had exercise-induced headache last time. This is what we did. You need to be very careful, do the reverse order, whatever. But, you have to take into consideration the situation you're in and whether there's multiple trainers working with these clients and making sure that you've conveyed this information so that, because if you don't, the next trainer comes in and just proceeds with a normal workout, starts pushing them through, and they have no idea that you had this problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tim, amazing, great podcast. I think we've covered EIH from almost every angle, and I've found this very useful, and I'm sure listeners have too. Just quickly, listeners know how to find out more about you and your services that you offer to personal trainers and studio owners.
Yeah. So best way to contact me for any questions or any type of information you may want about different services, educational services, workshops, seminars, on-site training, whatever. Go to my website, stronglifetraining.com. And there's multiple ways to contact me. The phone number is listed there. Email address is listed there. There's a contact form that you could fill out and it would get to me. So
great.
Any of that would be fine. And we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. And obviously next time we will do the listener Q&A, which I'm very excited to get through as well.
That's fun to kind of tackle some of those things. A lot of good
and I will also say now, if you're interested in Tim answering your question, please submit it to Lawrence. Just email me, lawrence@highintensitybusiness.com, or you can just go to contact form on the website and put it there as well. And I will do my best to get Tim to answer all the questions. Maybe we can do a couple podcasts to make sure we cover them all, or do it in the comments or whatever. And also just to mention, if you are interested in free resources to help you grow your high intensity training business, so sales presentations, PDFs on how to get clients and attract great trainers, financial forecasting templates, and much more, please head over to highintensitybusiness.com/free. That's highintensitybusiness.com/free to get that. And Tim, thanks so much again. This is amazing. And we'll make sure we schedule more very soon. And for everyone listening, to find the blog post for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com, search for episode 389. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.
This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a single software platform that enables your trainers to deliver consistent, high-quality workouts, track client progress, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to poor client experiences, inaccurate tracking, and prevents you from growing your business, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal understand your challenge and have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. You can integrate with MindBody, manage a standardized exercise and workout library for your team, track workouts effectively, and produce client reports at the click of a button. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. Starting with Strength Portal is super simple. Number 1, sign up for the best package for your business. Number 2, let Strength Portal take the load off and help onboard your business onto the platform. And number 3, start delivering consistent workout experiences and scale your business to the next level. To help support the podcast, please go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business and sign up now so you can stop feeling frustrated about your business and start to scale your business to its true potential. Go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business.
Let's go.